Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, this time we're going deep on this podcast script I found, and it really grabbed my attention.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about how to totally crush your goals in the new year.
New year, new me, right.
Exactly.
Right.
But here's the thing. It's aimed at people taking exams
Okay.
and people who are like just starting out on something totally new.
Interesting.
I know. I thought of our listeners right away
Yeah,
because
makes sense.
they're always up for a challenge.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what's the big idea? What are we diving into?
So this script lays out these 4 core principles.
Okay.
Keep learning, keep improving, keep growing, and keep moving forward.
I liked it.
Yeah, and what I thought was really cool was how it like tailors each principle to those different groups of people.
Right, right. Because you know you're going to approach studying for an exam differently from, say, starting a business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like this good reminder that no matter what you're facing, these fundamentals can still apply.
Absolutely. And these principles can be applied any time of year.
Yeah, totally.
It's not just for the new year. It's just.
Exactly. And it's all about that extra motivation and direction anytime you need it.
That's right.
Okay, so let's jump into this first one.
Okay.
Keep learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what you might be thinking, right?
Like, come on. That's basic.
Yeah, like keep learning. Duh. But this script actually goes a little deeper.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so like, you know how they say that continuous learning is linked to being more adaptable in your career
Yeah.
and even like being more satisfied with your life?
Absolutely.
Well, this script digs into that.
I see. So it's not just about, knowing more stuff. It's about actually
Yeah,
investing in your future in a way.
exactly. And especially for people like our listeners,
Yeah.
they love to dive into complex topics.
Oh, yeah. They love to go deep.
Exactly. And it's just a good reminder that like approaching anything with this attitude of, I'm going to learn something,
Yeah.
it just opens up all these possibilities.
It's interesting you say that because I was reading about this study
Oh.
where they found that people who actively seek out new knowledge tend to be more resilient in the face of challenges. Isn't that fascinating?
Totally. And I've actually been trying out this thing the script suggests.
Okay, what's that?
Asking myself every morning, what will I learn today?
Oh, that's cool.
I know, right?
Eh,
And it's been crazy. Like, it makes you so much more aware of all the learning opportunities that are like just around you all the time.
You start to notice them more.
Exactly.
You're primed for it.
Yes.
It's like you've got your learning radar switched on.
Exactly. And the script really emphasizes that it's not just about like passively absorbing information,
Right, you have to be engaged.
Yeah, and for people prepping for exams, it talks about the importance of really understanding the material, not just memorizing it.
That's huge. Because, memorizing might get you through a test, but it's not going to stick with you long term.
Exactly. The script even suggests trying to connect those concepts to real-life situations.
Oh, that's a good one.
Make it meaningful.
Yeah, it helps you remember it better and actually use it.
Totally.
Now, what about for beginners? You mentioned the script addresses them too.
Oh, yeah. It gives some really practical advice about setting small, achievable goals.
Okay, that makes sense.
And embracing what it calls the 1% rule.
The 1% rule.
Yeah, it's the idea that like tiny improvements add up over time.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. And this is key. It says to view mistakes not as failures, but as valuable learning opportunities.
Yes, such an important mindset shift.
I know, right? Because I think so often we get so caught up in trying to be perfect that we forget that mistakes are how we learn and grow.
That's right. It's like that saying, you win or you learn.
Exactly.
There's always something to be gained from every experience, even the ones that don't go as planned.
So true. It's all about reframing your perspective.
Exactly. See those setbacks not as roadblocks, but as feedback?
Feedback that can help you like course correct and get back on track.
Exactly.
And that actually leads perfectly into the next principle.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What's next?
Keep improving.
Keep improving. Okay.
And, we all have areas where we want to be better, but sometimes that desire to improve can just feel so overwhelming.
Oh, yeah, totally. Especially these days when, everyone's always telling you to hustle and do more, be more, achieve more.
It's exhausting.
It is. But I like how this script offers a more grounded approach. It's like, hey, improvement isn't about reaching some destination.
Right.
It's a journey.
I love that analogy.
It takes the pressure off.
It does.
Yeah.
You don't have to make these huge leaps overnight. It's the small, consistent improvements that make a difference.
Absolutely. Those tiny 1% shifts you were talking about.
Yeah, those are what create lasting change.
It's like building a habit one small step at a time.
Exactly. Now, for exam takers, The script suggests analyzing your weaknesses and finding a system to get better.
Right, so maybe trying different study techniques or getting extra help.
Yeah, or even just like breaking down the material into smaller chunks.
Right, make it more manageable.
And the script also talks about how important it is to measure your progress.
Oh, that's a good point because it's easy to lose motivation if you can't see how far you've come.
Totally. But for beginners, the script emphasizes being patient and celebrating small wins.
Yeah, because, starting something new can be daunting.
It can be. And it's all about finding a pace that feels manageable and sustainable.
Right, remember progress, not
I
perfection.
love that.
It's about the journey, not just the destination.
And speaking of journeys, let's move on to the next principle.
All right, let's hear it.
Keep growing.
Keep growing.
And this one, I think this is where it gets a little more challenging.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, it's not just about learning and improving.
Okay.
It's about pushing past your comfort zone.
I see, getting uncomfortable.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting because
Yeah.
true growth often involves facing discomfort and taking risks and like challenging your own limiting beliefs.
Right, it's about stretching yourself.
Yeah, and there's that saying like if you're not growing, you're dying.
Ooh, that's a powerful one.
It is, and I think sometimes we resist growth because we associate discomfort with like negativity.
Right, we think discomfort is a bad thing.
Yeah. But this script is all about embracing discomfort as part of the process.
I like that because, you rarely achieve anything amazing by staying in your comfort zone.
That's so true. And the script highlights that. For those exam takers, pushing past their comfort zones often means building discipline and resilience.
Qualities that are super valuable, not just for passing exams, but for life in general.
Exactly. Now, for those just starting out on something new,
Yeah,
the script really focuses on self-awareness as a key to growth.
self-awareness. Okay.
Yeah, it encourages you to really understand your strengths and your weaknesses, and then to use that knowledge strategically.
Right. Play to your strengths and acknowledge where you might need some help.
Yes, it's all about playing to your strengths while acknowledging those areas where you might need to like seek support or develop new skills. And that really resonates with me.
It makes sense because we often talk about growth in this very general way, but the script reminds us that it's actually a very personal process.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another,
Exactly.
and that's okay. The key is to find what works best for you.
And it's about giving yourself permission to experiment and try new things and figure out what clicks for you.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be afraid to try something and realize it's not for you.
Totally. And, the script even has this great mantra.
Okay, I'm listening.
Be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Ooh, that's good. I like that.
I know, right? It sounds counterintuitive, but I kind of love it.
It is, but it's also about recognizing that discomfort can be a sign that you're stretching yourself.
Yeah.
That you're on the verge of something new.
Right. Like, think about it. You rarely achieve anything really amazing by staying comfy in your limits.
So true. Growth often happens outside of that comfort zone.
Totally. Now, you brought up a really interesting point earlier
Oh, yeah.
about the whole idea of constantly chasing those aha moments,
Right, right.
but then also valuing that slow and steady progress.
Exactly. It's like, those big breakthroughs are great, but what about the value of just chipping away at something day after day?
Yeah.
Even when it's not glamorous or exciting.
And I think it's about finding that balance, right?
Right.
Like embracing discomfort when it's leading to growth,
Yeah.
but also recognizing that sometimes the most meaningful growth happens through those small, consistent efforts we talked about before.
Absolutely. And having the wisdom to know when to push yourself and when to ease back and to trust the process even when you don't see those results right away.
Yeah, trust the process. That's so key.
It is. It's about playing the long game.
And that actually brings us to our final principle for this section of the deep dive.
Okay. Hit me with it.
Keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward. I like it.
And this one really resonated with me because it acknowledges that setbacks are inevitable. Like no matter how carefully we plan or how hard we work, there are going to be challenges.
That's life, right?
It is. Life is full of surprises, and not all of them are good ones.
Yeah, but you know what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
So true. And you know what sets successful people apart?
Yeah.
It's not that they never have setbacks. It's their ability to bounce back from them.
Resilience.
Yes. And the script talks about reframing those setbacks, seeing them not as failures, but as learning opportunities.
Oh, I love that reframe.
Right. It's a chance to adjust your course and come back even stronger.
It's like that quote, fall 7 times, stand up 8.
Exactly. So for someone taking an exam, this might mean not letting one bad grade totally derail your study plan.
Right. You analyze what went wrong, figure out what to improve, and then use that knowledge to crush the next one.
Yeah. And for someone starting a new business, it might mean hitting a major obstacle, like a funding rejection or a partnership that falls apart.
Right. Those can be tough moments.
They can be,
Yeah.
but it's about having that resilience to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and find another way forward.
I like that you brought up resilience because I think it's one of the most crucial skills we can develop.
I agree, especially in today's world.
Things change so fast.
They do.
And being able to adapt, overcome challenges, and just keep moving forward, even when things get tough, that's how you reach your goals.
So true. And the script actually has some really helpful advice for dealing with setbacks.
Okay, like what?
Well, for those of you who might be feeling discouraged, it reminds us to focus on the progress we've already made.
Ah, that's a good one.
Right. Instead of dwelling on how far we still have to go.
Because it's so easy to lose sight of our accomplishments.
It is.
When we're so fixated on what we haven't achieved yet.
It's like we're on this treadmill, always running, but never getting anywhere.
Yeah, and that's where gratitude comes in.
Oh, tell me more.
Taking the time to appreciate how far we've come.
Yeah.
To acknowledge our efforts and celebrate our wins.
Even the small ones.
Absolutely. Gratitude is so powerful.
It is.
It shifts our perspective from scarcity to abundance.
Right. It reminds us that we already have so much to be thankful for.
Exactly, even when things are tough.
So true. And then, to really hammer home this point about perseverance, the script shares this amazing quote from Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, I love his quotes. Let's hear it.
He said, "If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward."
Wow, that's powerful.
Right.
It really speaks to that human spirit, you know?
Yeah.
That ability to keep going, even when faced with what seem like impossible obstacles.
Totally. And I think that's a great point to transition into talking about how these principles apply to our listeners.
Yeah, because even though the script is about goals in the new year, these principles are really timeless.
They are.
They're about cultivating a growth mindset, resilience, continuous improvement, qualities that are valuable no matter what you're doing in life.
I love how you put that. A mindset of growth, resilience, and continuous improvement.
It's like a recipe for a good life.
It really is. And it's a reminder that this whole journey, it's not just about checking things off a list.
Right.
It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Absolutely.
About realizing our full potential.
Love it. So we've talked about these 4 principles.
Keep learning, keep improving, keep growing, and keep moving forward.
They're good ones.
They are. And I'm curious what really stood out to you from this script. Was there like one particular piece of wisdom that resonated?
You know, I was really struck by how this script manages to be both practical and inspiring at the same time.
Yes.
It's not just about setting these big goals, but it gives you actual strategies to achieve them.
Yeah. And it meets you where you are, whether you're a total pro or just starting out.
And that's what makes these principles so powerful.
It does.
They're not tied to one specific thing, you know?
Right, like it doesn't matter what field you're in or what industry.
Exactly. It's about developing a mindset and approach to life that you can apply to anything you set your mind to.
It's about fostering that inner drive.
Yeah, that drive to keep learning and evolving and expanding your horizons.
Okay, so here's the million-dollar question.
Hit me with it.
How do we take these principles and put them into action?
Right, because it's easy to get all fired up by a motivational script.
Yeah.
But how do we make sure those good intentions actually turn into real lasting change?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
It is, and I think it comes back to that 1% rule we talked about.
Oh, okay.
Breaking down those big, audacious goals into smaller, more manageable steps.
Right, so instead of saying, like, I'm going to learn a new language this year,
Yeah.
it's about finding those daily actions that move you closer to that goal.
Exactly. So maybe it's spending 15 minutes a day practicing vocabulary.
Okay.
Or listening to a podcast in that language. Or even just having a short conversation with a language partner.
Right, just little things.
Exactly. Small, consistent actions that build up over time.
Yeah, and those are what lead to those big transformations.
They do, and I think that's a message that speaks to our listeners.
Our listeners are driven and curious and always looking to learn and grow.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about celebrating those small wins along the way.
Oh, that's so important.
Because it's those little victories that keep you motivated.
They do.
And remind you that you're on the right track.
It's like giving yourself a little pat on the back.
Exactly. You deserve it.
You know, and we often tend to be our own worst critics.
Oh, tell me about it.
We focus on how far we still have to go.
Yeah.
Instead of appreciating how far we've come.
And that's where that Martin Luther King quote comes back in.
Keep moving forward.
Exactly. Even if you have to crawl, those small steps are still progress.
So true. It's about shifting our focus from perfection to progress.
Love it.
All right, so to wrap up this section of our deep dive,
Okay.
is there one takeaway you think our listeners can apply to their lives starting today?
I think it goes back to that deceptively simple question.
Okay.
What will I learn today? It is a simple question, but like we said before, it can really change how you approach the whole day.
Right.
We're telling your brain to be ready for those learning moments.
Totally. And it doesn't have to be anything like super academic or complicated.
Right. It could be learning a new recipe.
Oh, yeah.
Or finally figuring out that weird setting on your phone.
Ugh, yes.
Anything that makes you curious.
It's like getting back to that feeling we had as kids,
Yeah.
like that pure joy of discovering something new.
Exactly. And, the best part is
Yeah.
when you start with that foundation of learning the other principles we talked about, just sort of naturally follow.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more.
Well, you start seeing chances to get better. You're more willing to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and you build up that resilience to keep going even when things get tough.
Wow. So it's almost like that one question sets off this chain reaction
It does.
that leads to these big changes in how we approach everything.
I like that. It's like a ripple effect.
It is. Okay. So now I have a question for you.
Sure.
We talked about that 1% rule and breaking down big goals.
Right.
So what's one tiny action, something that seems super small, that our listeners could do today?
Okay. Today.
Yeah, to really embody one of these 4 principles.
Ooh, that's a good challenge. I like that.
It's a call to action. Don't just listen to this and forget about it.
Yeah.
Actually put it into practice.
Because knowledge is only powerful when you use it right.
So well said. And on that note, a huge thank you to all of you for joining us on the deep dive. We hope exploring these principles has given you some fresh ideas and inspiration to make this year and every year one of amazing growth and progress.
Until next time, keep diving deeper, keep exploring, and keep pushing those boundaries.
It's a good question. And honestly, I think it comes back to that question.
Which one?
What will I learn today?
Right. Like we said before, it's so simple, but it really sets you up for a day of learning.
It does, and it doesn't have to be something huge.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be like I'm going to read a whole textbook.
Right. It could be like, oh, I'm going to try a new recipe.
Right. Or finally figure out how to use that new app I downloaded. Exactly. Or listen to a podcast on a topic you've always been curious about.
It's about bringing back that sense of discovery.
Totally. Like when we were kids and everything felt new.
And the cool thing is,
Yeah.
once you make learning a habit, all those other principles kind of fall into place.
That's right. You start seeing where you can improve. You're more willing to get out of your comfort zone, and you develop that resilience to keep going when things get tough.
So it's like a chain reaction.
Exactly. One small change leading to bigger ones.
So here's something for everyone listening to think about.
Okay, what's that?
We talked about that 1% rule, right? Breaking down those big goals.
Right.
What's one tiny action, something that seems almost too small to matter,
Okay.
that you could do today to live by one of those 4 principles?
Oh, I love that challenge. It's a call to action for everyone listening.
Don't just let this information sit there, put it to work.
Exactly. Because in the end, knowledge is only powerful when we use it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, a huge thank you to all of you for joining us on the deep dive. We hope this deep dive into these principles has sparked some new ideas and given you some inspiration to make this year and every year a time of incredible growth and progress.
Until next time, keep diving deeper, keep exploring, and keep pushing those boundaries.